Hi, thank you for joining me again. It is Saturday, October 24th, and it's a bit chilly outside. It's actually a bit chilly in here too, but so today my choice of beverage is hot chocolate. Probably not the kind you drink. This is hot cocoa. It's a hot cocoa drink. I make my own coconut milk, in case you're interested, and I use organic, unsweetened, shredded coconut. And I buy that by the bag by Amazon. I make my own coconut milk. After I make my own coconut milk, I use cacao powder. It's unsweetened. And I add a little bit of vanilla that I make, and a little bit of cinnamon, ground cinnamon. And then I use this for sweetener, monk fruit sweetener. So it doesn't elevate your, release so much insulin from your pancreas. And that's what I do. And then I stir it up on the stove for about 10 minutes on low heat. And then afterwards I put it in the blender for about, 10, 15 seconds until you get that little froth there. Okay, so anyhow, thank you for joining me again. And I hope that some of you were able to or remembered to possibly buy this book, Lies My Doctor Told Me, Medical Myths That Can Harm Your Health. And this is by Ken DeBerry. I really enjoy reading his books. I enjoy listening to his podcast. He's got a great YouTube channel. And so if you ever get a chance to listen to some YouTube channels, videos, he would be a very good one to take the time to listen to. So, and let me begin again. Let me begin by telling you what, I know I told you this before, what Robert Boyle back in 1690 said. Quote, "It is highly dishonorable for a reasonable soul, you and I, living in so divinely a built mansion as the body you reside in, to be totally unacquainted with its exquisite structure." That was written a long time ago, and it still holds true that we live in this body, and we should know our bodies very well. We should know them better than any doctor or any person knows it. So we should know our body really well. You don't have to be a doctor to get to know your body. I'm not a doctor. I am an integrative health coach, and I make it my business to dig deep and to learn all I can about nutrition, wellness, and how all that affects my body. And ultimately your body, because these videos are made for you. And the more you learn about your body, the more you can know how to take care of it. And like I've always said, your body will heal itself if you give it what it needs. And what I mean by that is giving it the food that we were designed to feed it. And that's unprocessed foods, water, beverages like this. I've become addicted to this, especially in the winter. I love it. It's nice and hot. And tea, mint tea. So if you can do those three things, I know the monk fruit is not exactly unprocessed, but it's minimally processed, and it's a lot better than white sugar. So today, I know I said I'm going to wrap this up about type 2 diabetes. There's a lot to talk about concerning diabetes, but I'm going to tell you basically a little recap from last week. Type 2 diabetes has been with us for over 2,000 years. And but unlike 2,000 years, a lot of things have changed. And we talked a little bit about how nowadays food is everywhere. You have it in hospitals, gas stations, schools, everywhere. You go to Walmart, and when you're checking out at the cashier, you're surrounded by chips and candy bars. And the other day I saw a little cooler with a bunch of beverages, sugary beverages, of course. And now with Halloween coming up, they have even more shelves of little bins right by the register of all kinds of sugary things, processed things, carbs that have a bunch of sugar, carbs that are garbage, garbage. So we're bombarded with that, and you just can't go anywhere without just food everywhere. So anyhow, packaged foods, we have a lot of packaged foods, unlike many moons ago our ancestors had. The technology is very advanced nowadays, where children, especially children, because adults are, a lot of them are on their computers, laptops, 24/7, their iPads, or the phone, the smartphone that I'm using right now. But the technology that we have now, the children, especially the children, they're doing less exercise, they're eating more fast food, they're getting less sleep because they're staying up so late. Because you have to look at the Instagram and the tweeters, and there's a bunch of other things out there that I'm not even aware of, but they're just constantly on that phone, so they're not, or their iPads, and they're not getting enough sleep. And that's just a whole nother video. And also, what's changed, believe it or not, from birth, a lot of women are not having vaginal births, they're having C-sections. And when a mother has a child vaginally, the baby goes through the birth canal and is pretty much baptized with tons of good bacteria, and they miss out on that when they have a C-section. And C-sections are mostly planned. They're a lot more expensive, costly than a vaginal birth, and it's just more money for the allopaths, for the doctors, and they pretty much schedule the C-sections according to their golf games or their vacations, or whatever's convenient for them, for the most part. Not all of them, but most of the time, probably 95% of them are not necessary. C-sections that are not necessary. They're just convenient for the doctor and for the mother. When I worked at a hospital not too long ago, I used to, just out of curiosity, ask the women, "Why are you having a C-section?" And they would say, "Because the doctor said." And I thought, Once in a while I would get someone that would say, because he sees something, maybe something looks irregular or unusual or whatever, or the umbilical cord is doing something weird. But that was one, in the only one, just one time someone told me that. But other than that, it was all because the doctor said. So that unfortunately is happening. And then a lot of women are not nursing. And again, like I said, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks back, I was talking about the digestion. And women nowadays, young girls, they don't know about their bodies like they should. And of course, I was ignorant about that too, 35 years ago when I had my daughter. And I did nurse, but I nursed for 8 months. I should have done it for at least 2 years, or until her molars came in. And then, of course, before her molars came in, I started her on that baby cereal, which has a lot of sugar in it, and that sets them up for a lot of GI problems, gastrointestinal problems, and their enzymes that break down starch are not developed yet until the molars come in. So I didn't know that. But if you're a young person, or if you know someone that's pregnant, it would be nice if you could tell them that stay away from that cereal, that baby cereal. Some women can't nurse, and I get it. It's not that common, but they're out there. Sometimes women don't want to suffer. Sometimes it does hurt that when children, they have that powerful suction power, and that's not very pleasant. But you got to hang in there, because that goes away, and that's the best thing for a little baby, a little infant. And another thing I've noticed is a lot of times now, more than ever, we have a lot of single parent homes. And women don't have time to come home and cook a real meal. They do a lot of carry out, a lot of fast food restaurants that are just terrible. And that's not to make anyone feel guilty, but that's one reason why there's a lot of type 2 diabetes in children, because children are, when they learn, children are very smart. I've seen little kids get on little ladders. They reach up to get the cereal, and then they know how to open the fridge to get the pasteurized, terrible milk that nobody should drink after they're nursed, because milk is for cows, and no human should drink milk after they're nursed. But anyhow, these children get up, they get maybe a Pop-Tart or toast with jelly, cereal with milk, and then that sugary orange stuff, orange juice, which is loaded with sugar. And so it's just, parents don't have time to cook. And so the children are left alone to do that. Mom is in a hurry to get to work or to school or whatever. And so that's another epidemic, but that's another issue. But for now, that's another reason. And what else? And then, when some people think, well, what do I give them? I mean, that's all I have time for, cereal and Pop-Tarts and toast, whatever. And there are something called eggs, and you can boil those. You could peel them in the morning or at night, put them in a little container, maybe 2 or 3 of them, and they're loaded with nutrients, especially if they're pastured. And then, or make some cheese, sausage, and egg muffins. Put them in the little cupcake thingies, molds. Instead of making cupcakes, you make these little molds of egg, cheese, and sausage, or bacon, or the meat that you want. Egg, cheese, and sausage muffins. Make those at night, and then they can have them in the morning. And then you just get creative. But I definitely would stay away from that cereal. The cereal is nothing but poison. It's just nothing but sugar. Okay, and also last week we talked a little bit about how back in the day, our parents, our grandparents and great-grandparents, they consumed per day about 30 to 50 grams of carbs per day. Now, the average American, I don't, but the average American, I used to, I guess, back in the day before I know what I know now, but nowadays people are consuming up to 300 grams of carbs per day. That's a lot. That's a lot. And the pancreas doesn't know what to do with all those sugars and carbs coming in. Is just releasing so much insulin. It's like it doesn't know what to do. So we're just really doing a lot of things to our body that we just never did many moons ago, 2 generations ago. So excuse me, I don't want it to get cold. Anywho, so let's talk a little bit about macros. I don't know if you know what macros are. Some people don't know, but just in case you don't know, there's macros. And macros are just what you consume for energy, what your body needs for energy, and that is, macros are carbs, fats, and proteins. And like I told you, in the digestive system, the carbs and the fat the digestion for carbs and fats begin in the mouth with all those enzymes that your mouth releases, salivary enzymes, and your protein is broken down in the stomach. So you have those 3 macros. Okay, so when you eat fat, very little insulin is released from your pancreas. And the fat breaks down into fatty acids, so you don't need insulin to properly metabolize the fat, which is why the Keto Protocol is wonderful. That's for next week. Okay, so of the 3 macros, fat is the one macro that keeps you satiated or full for the longest time. And that's why when I break my fast, when I first eat, which break fast doesn't mean you have to eat it in the morning. Break fast means you're breaking your fast from, sleeping all night, or the 8 or 9 hours or whatever you sleep. When you wake up, you don't have to have breakfast. You don't have to break your fast at 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. Break fast is anytime. I usually break my fast. I usually have breakfast at 12:30 or so. So that's and that's why when I do have when I do break my fast, I always break it with nuts, cheese, eggs, bacon, a fatty food, something higher in fat, and then protein that releases less insulin, And that protein breaks down into amino acids, which needs little insulin to be processed by the liver. So in the Keto Protocol, which we'll do more detail next week, the main thing to consume more of is fat, because it keeps you satiated and it releases very little insulin. And then protein is the one that they emphasize, because it helps you build muscle in that, and it releases a little bit of insulin. And of course, if you eat too much protein, your body breaks it down into glucose and it stores it as fat. And so you don't want to eat too much protein. And then when you eat carbs, your pancreas is signaled to release lots of insulin to send to the cells in your body for stored energy. So carbs are big insulin hogs, and they break down to glucose, and again, to get into each cell. So carbs are broken down into sugars, which lead to an increase in blood sugar it's a rise in blood sugar that triggers the release of the blood sugar lowering hormone insulin. And that hormone insulin, it's a hormone that we all need. And it's a fat storage hormone, but when you have too much of it, then you get fat. Then you get fatty liver disease, and then you get type 2 diabetes. So also, some of the biggest myths, like I told you before, diabetes is a chronic progressive disease, and lowering blood sugars is the primary goal of therapy. The truth is, diabetes is a curable and reversible dietary disease. It's a disease of high insulin resistance, and treatment is directed to lowering insulin. So what most doctors focus on is lowering your blood sugar, and so that's not going to heal your type 2 diabetes. And you know that if you have type 2 diabetes, because I feel confident enough to say that everyone knows someone that has type 2 diabetes or fatty liver disease. And fatty liver disease is just something that comes before they tell you have type 2 diabetes. So if you have fatty liver disease, you're heading for a lot of problems. So basically, get rid of sugars, you get rid of diabetes. It's that simple. And so you want to think of insulin as a traffic cop. It tells the blood sugar or glucose where to go. In healthy people, it fuels your nervous system, your red blood cells, and your muscle tissue. And when you have too much insulin, like I said before, you store it as fat. Okay, so we're going to do, I'm going to do an analogy. I guess I'll enjoy that later. I'm going to do something that will help you understand type 2 diabetes, and then I'm going to tell you some more things at the end so you can investigate a little bit more. Okay, think of this bowl as your body. Okay, this is your body. When you're little, this is decades. This is your body. This is decades of you eating, and it's not your fault, okay? This is of you eating every day cereal, milk, because milk breaks down into sugar, milk, tortillas, bread, oatmeal, every day. What else do people eat? Pancakes, waffles, toast, Pop-Tarts. So this is this is decades, okay? That was 10, 20, now we got like 30 years, 40 years. And then what happens is you start getting fatty liver disease. And the problem with this is 40 years, 50 years. And like I said before, insulin resistance. So type 2 diabetes is just an overflow problem. So see, what's happening is it's overflowing. So you get a fatty liver, a fatty pancreas, and there's just too much insulin. too much sugar, and so the sugar is just overflowing. It overflows into, just doesn't know where to go anymore. So it's going to all your extremities, to your eyes, it's going everywhere. So that's type 2 diabetes, an overflow of insulin, overflow of sugar, because every time you eat carbs, you're releasing insulin. And what does insulin do? It's a fat storage hormone. So your body has too much sugar. That's the bottom line. Okay? So by the time they've diagnosed you with type 2 diabetes, you've already had it 10 to 14 years. I know, a lot of people don't know that. So you've had it for a long time. And of course, by that time you already have a fatty liver, fatty pancreas. And so, but before that, before they tell you have type 2 diabetes, you have a lot of inflammation. And that's why if you notice people that have really swelled up hands and their face, and that's all inflammation. People that get heart attacks or strokes, it's inflammation. Inflammation everywhere in your arteries and your veins. So that constricts the veins, and it's not cholesterol. You got to investigate that too. There's a lot of new studies on that, and Dr. Berry will tell you. Dr. Berry and a small minority of doctors will tell you. The new research is that they've done autopsies on people that have died of heart attacks, and it's not cholesterol. Some of them have very low cholesterol because they believe that big fat lie that not to eat saturated fats, and those are really good for you. That's for another video, for next week's video. So people, they're like, no, I can't eat that steak. I can't eat meat every day. I can't eat 2 eggs a day. Why? Because the doctor said it's high cholesterol. So they just don't know. And so, they've autopsied people that have died of heart attacks, and it was inflammation. It's not cholesterol at all. In fact, people that have higher cholesterol levels live longer. Italians. A lot of Italians have high cholesterol, but they live longer. My cholesterol, I believe it was 325. And like I told you before, the doctors were alarmed. They wanted to send me to a specialist, and they're just really worried about me. But I know better, and the higher the better. Anyhow, so that's that. So this is just too much sugar, okay? What does the doctor, what does your uninformed doctor do? He tries to lower your blood sugar with pills. He'll start you on with metformin or some other pills. There's at least 50 other pills out there. Then he'll tell you to come back in a couple months. And sometimes they'll tell you, because some people will ask them, well, is this ever going to go away? Is there something I can do? And a lot of times, most of them say, no, you're just going to have to learn to deal with it. We'll have to manage it with drugs, And then eventually, 6 months later, he'll put you on some units of insulin, and then more insulin and more insulin. And so, and then then all kinds of problems are happening, because it's like you get a cut, right? You cut your leg, you get a fever, and they're giving you aspirin for the fever. And that's not going to make your wound better, right? Kind of common sense if you think about it. If your son cuts his leg, he falls on a piece of glass and cuts his leg, he starts getting feverish and just, whatever. You go to the doctor, they're not going to give you aspirin. A good doctor will go to the source. Okay, we need to stitch him up, give him an antibiotic, and he'll be fine, and that's it. But this giving the pills and insulin is like doing that, like giving an aspirin to someone that has a big sore or a big cut that needs to be taken care of. That sore, that cut needs to be addressed, not the fever, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's the same thing with pills and insulin. You don't need pills and insulin. What you need is to get rid of this, and I'm going to show you how. So you need to be proactive. And you need to get involved. You need to ask your doctor questions. And I have met some doctors, or I kind of met them, but I've known of them from people, what their customers tell them, their patients tell them. They don't like when you ask them questions. and not questioning their, not question them in the bad way, like, how do you know, or, questioning like they're, like maybe insulting them, because a lot of them, they think they're gods or something, but they know everything, or they know a lot more than you. But if you ask them, like, well, doctor, what can I do? What can I eat? Isn't that, I read somewhere that the A1C should be lower than 5.4. What do you think about that? Or should I stop eating bread? Should I stop eating oatmeal? Why do you think I have a fatty? I mean, just whatever comes to your mind. If you ask them and they get haughty with you, or just do what I tell you, or just, you're not going to heal it. You just have to learn to manage it. And then if they just get irate for you asking them questions, you need to go to a different doctor. You need to find yourself a functional doctor or a naturopathic MD. And they're out there. You just have to Google them. See, right now, unlike 40 and 50 and 60 years ago, and of course, unlike 100 years ago, we have access to so much information online, at the library. I mean, the books that you have access to, that we have access to, YouTube, Instagram. We just have so much at our fingertips. And so if the doctor doesn't want to answer a question, just, Google it or look it up. And of course, like I've said before, a lot of that information that you Google is going to be very inaccurate or outdated. So that's why I suggest certain books and certain doctors, because these doctors that I'm suggesting, they're younger. And also, not just because they're younger, I'm talking 30s and 40s. The younger ones, they're doing additional, they're getting on that train of looking at the recent research, and a lot of them, some of them, I'm going to tell you before I end this, there's one in particular that really is out there, and he's just helping so many people with type 2 diabetes. But anyhow, you want to buy a glucometer so you could test your blood sugar, because as the years go by, when it gets higher and higher, that means also that you're having that insulin resistance, too much sugar. So you need to check your sugars. You can get a glucometer for under $50 online. You want to order a lipid panel so that you can find out what your A1C is. And of course, like I said last week, if it's above 5.4, you need to put the brakes on your diet. And like I said before, you cannot heal a dietary or manage a dietary disease with drugs. You just can't. It seems like you can in the beginning with drugs and insulin, but at the end, you'll know that that's not the way to go. And it is preferable that you have a heart attack and die than go through the course of what happens with this type 2 diabetes, because I'm telling you, it is a chronic progressive disease if you allow it to. And and that's with the drugs, usually metformin, and then insulin, 10 units, 20 units, 50 units, and then 100 units, and then you're rotting inside with all this sugar. Your body is rotting. Your eyes, that's why a lot of people become blind. They get amputations. So your body is just basically rotting with all that sugar. And so diabetes affects your entire body. Your heart, hardening of the arteries, heart disease, strokes, like I said before. The eyes, it's the leading cause of blindness, type 2 diabetes. Your brain, Alzheimer's. More people are getting Alzheimer's than ever before. I've never known so many people that have Alzheimer's like they do now. And most of them that have Alzheimer's also have type 2 diabetes. Cancer, that increases the risk of breast, stomach, colorectal, kidney, and endometrial cancers and other cancers when you have type 2 diabetes. You're just more susceptible to those kind of things. And of course, sugar feeds off. Cancer needs sugar to grow. What else? Your kidneys, you end up on kidney dialysis because your kidneys are just shot with just so much sugar. It's just a vicious way of progressive disease. In your nerves, like I said before, they get inflamed. There's all kinds of problems with your nerves, your veins, your legs. You get infections. When I used to visit the wound center at the hospital, Oh my goodness. I'd never seen so many such terrible looking wounds from type 2 diabetics. Oh my goodness. It's so, so sad. And they just don't know that they don't know. It's so sad. And their doctor doesn't tell them that, because the doctor doesn't know. Because the doctors most of them are pretty nice. They're pretty easygoing. They just don't know that they don't know. They're not doing their research. They're not going home and looking for more information or the latest studies, or they're not doing what they should be doing. But anyhow, the wound center is just a terrible, terrible place to see so many infections. And then of course you get your feet, 1 foot here, 1 foot there, and then eventually the foot, and then the leg amputations. It's just really scared. Not scared. Sad. And then of course you have skin and nail conditions. Like I said, it affects your whole body. Erectile dysfunction because of poor blood circulation. And so, all right. So how do you stop this insanity, this type 2 diabetes insanity? Well, the answer is basically staring at you right in the face here. You need to stop putting sugar in your body, right? And how do you do that? Well, you do a low carb diet. And I'm talking low, like if you're already pre-diabetic or if you're obese, because usually obesity and type 2 diabetes go hand in hand. Not always, but they usually do. You really can't afford to do low carb. Your body makes carbs, but what you need to do is cut the fruit for now until you get off the meds, and then maybe you can have some blueberries or something like that. Eventually I'll tell you what the ones with the lowest, or you can Google it, right? But you need to stop putting sugar in here. Now, in order for this to stop overflowing, you just don't add any sugar, right? That's common sense. If you don't want it to overflow, you don't add any sugar to it. If you want to get rid of this, little by little, this will come off when you do intermittent fasting, which is another video. But you start doing intermittent fasting, and when your body doesn't eat, it's not releasing insulin, right? So if you're not eating, you're not releasing insulin, and the insulin stores fat. So eventually, when you're intermittent fast, you're burning this off. You burn it off every week. Let's say you fast twice a week, and you're low carbing or consuming foods with very, very low carbs or zero, or just fats and proteins, right? This goes down, and then it goes down and down and down. And so eventually this, it goes down maybe to very little. And then you reverse your type 2 diabetes, right? So it's not rocket science, but in order for you to get it, you need to understand it. And you needed to understand what type 2 diabetes was all about. And it's not about your blood sugar. It is very little, because if you have it elevated, then the pancreas releases insulin to bring it down. But if you keep doing that, then you need more insulin, right? To bring it down, and then more and more. And then that's what they say, that's what insulin resistance is all about. So the thing is, you need to try to do low carb and intermittent fasting if you want to get rid of this and bring it down to almost nothing. But I'm going to tell you one thing, and I promise you this, you don't have to be a doctor to know this. You will not die if you don't eat bread, cakes, cookies, candy, bananas, and don't listen to the dietitian or the nutritionist. They don't know jack about human nutrition. They got it all wrong. And so what are the best things for you to eat to break your fast, or if you want to eat in the morning? Because some people need to eat in the morning. Some people have have very physical jobs, and they wake up hungry, and that's fine. I don't wake up hungry. Well, sometimes I do, but then I just drink water and it goes away. But and that's a hormone it's the hormone that's released. Ghrelin it's a hormone that's released like 3 times a day, but that ghrelin will subside if you drink water or trick it like I do with the fat coffee. And the ghrelin goes away for about 3 hours, and then it spikes again, and then I eat. But so what you want to do is you can have avocado. Avocado is very high in fat, the good fat, and it only has like 8 grams of carbs. So you can have an avocado in the morning with some bacon, preferably from free-range pigs. It contains a lot of essential amino and fatty acids. And everything I'm telling you here, it doesn't spike your insulin. So you're good to go. With avocado, bacon, eggs, they contain fatty acids and amino acids and omega-3s. And or some, if you're into yogurt, make sure it's Greek yogurt sprinkled with some nuts. And that's a great source of essential amino and fatty acids. And it's really easy to make it too. If you want to YouTube it, it's really easy to make Greek yogurt. No added sugar. And then of course steak. You can have steak in the morning. And preferably grass-fed, and that has an assortment of essential amino acids, fatty acids, and lots of vitamins and minerals. And so now, those are the good things, which is a lot of choices, you know, cheese, nuts, meat, avocado, that kind of things. Now, the bad thing, the way you don't want to begin breakfast or breaking your fast is with a banana. And I know, a lot of nutritionists tell you, start with a banana, with some toast or whatever. Okay, you don't want to eat bananas high in carbs. There's about 23 grams of carbs in half a banana. So your average banana does include a little bit of fiber, but way too much sugar. So stay away from the bananas. They spike, it's not worth it, the spike of the insulin in your body with the banana. And if your nutritionist, dietitian, or whoever told you to eat it, don't. And you'll feel a lot better. And just, you know what, eat a banana and then check your blood glucose with your glucometer. And you'll see how high it goes compared to eating an avocado. Cereal with skim milk. Any cereal that comes in a box is terrible for type 2 diabetes, regardless of who tells you that they're good for you or what the little box says, or a little heart healthy kind of thing, and non-GMO and blah, blah, natural blah, blah. Just don't eat cereal in a box. Don't. It's not good for you. It's a bunch of crap, and it contains added fake vitamins and minerals and more sugar, and so that'll spike your blood sugar. English muffins, they're made with wheat. They're all carbs, fructose and sucrose, and that goes straight to your liver. The fructose stores it as fat. So stay away from muffins. Muesli with berries, loads of carbs. It breaks down into fructose and glucose. So oatmeal made of oats that contain carbs and grains, horrible for diabetics, but they tell you to have a cup of oatmeal. It contains no meaningful vitamins or minerals. So I haven't had oatmeal probably in a good 6 years, and I don't miss it, don't crave it, and my body doesn't need it. So all carbs break down into glucose and fructose. Glucose spikes your blood sugar, and fructose stores it as fat in your liver. Okay, so there's no rule that says you have to eat breakfast when you wake up, and if your doctor tells you to eat when you wake up, if you're not hungry, don't eat. You know, he or she doesn't know when you're hungry or not. And so again, you need to get to know your body. And you will, it takes time. You got to educate yourself and listen to videos like mine and other people's that I suggest. Okay, so yeah, my mother, we grew up on Quaker. Remember that little container with the guy with the hat? Quaker Oats oatmeal. It contains whole grain rolled oats, oat flour, calcium carbonate, white salts. Okay, and then she used to also make us malto cocoa wheats. She used to make that with whole milk, and that's all highly processed and so bad for your body. So cocoa wheats, they have deadly ingredients, not good for you. Okay, so, and remember, chew your food well, especially if you're going to be eating bacon and steak and eggs and all those great things that you need. So, and again, remember, it's not about controlling your blood sugar. It's about too much insulin. It's about controlling what you're putting in your mouth. Simple as that, okay? So, I would recommend looking for another doctor because again, or I forgot to say, when you're doing all this, you're going to need less insulin, obviously, because if you're not eating any carbs, your pancreas is not releasing so much insulin. And in about 2 or 3 weeks, your liver and your pancreas won't be fatty. I mean, it takes time, but it can go back to normal. And some doctors say your pancreas is shot when you have type 2 diabetes. That's another lie. That's not true. And so, because if you think about it, when people get their bariatric surgery, really huge people, they get stapled or they get part of their stomach cut out or whatever, within 2 weeks, they're not diabetics anymore. Go figure. So that's because they're not eating what they used to eat, and there's a lot of insulin coming out. So the bottom line is your pancreas isn't shot. It's just fatty. It's just full of fat. And so you need to just change your diet to get it back to normal, your pancreas and your liver. So like I said, give your body what it needs and it will heal itself. So now, and so what you want to do, let me see. I found something. Okay, I found this diagram. It made sense to me. Okay, this is pretty cool. If you look at that little diagram, and it says, if I had a flood in my house, I would not spend day after day, week after week, and year after year buying buckets, mops, and towels. I would not be inventing different types of buckets and more expensive mops or drainage systems to ensure the water drained away quickly. I would find the source of the water and turn it off. Dr. Werner Wheelock. So, you got the spigot there and the water coming down, and which is the glucose and the fructose. So all you got to do is shut it off. Shut it off. Stop that flow of sugar going into your body. And you stop it with diet and exercise and fasting. Same concept as the sugar. But I thought I had forgotten that. But okay, so like I said before, I want to recommend a book every week. And maybe you can't go through a book a week. I know sometimes I can't. But this one, this is my favorite. Excuse me. There's other doctors that say the same thing pretty much. But this doctor, I love him. I love how he explains things. And but before I tell you about this book, I want to read you something before I end this video. This is on page 213. Rather than developing new paradigms of insulin resistance, which could lead to more effective treatments, we clung to the old failed paradigms because it is far easier to ignore an inconvenient truth than to face it. So we kept on giving the exact same medications, using the same treatments, and getting the same poor outcomes. Same old thinking, same old results. Insanity, as Albert Einstein would have said. Patients continue to get sick and die. And that's what this one doctor said. So these allopaths that we have, most of them nowadays, they're so busy treating the high blood sugar that they're forgetting to treat the real cause, type 2 diabetes, of insulin resistance. And at the end of the day, I believe it's all about pride, arrogance, ignorance, and money. Just follow the money. There's a lot of money in diabetes and type 2 diabetes pills and insulin. There's a lot of money in that. So this doctor I find very admirable, very intelligent. He knows his stuff, and I would urge you and recommend that you get this book, The Diabetes Code. He is wonderful. I discovered him a couple years ago, and I have 2 of his books. He just came out with another one. But this is a wonderful book. If you have type 2 diabetes, I didn't explain everything because he is a nephrologist, and he knows a lot of technical terms. He knows how to explain certain things about your insulin and why you should work with your doctor so that he or she can lower your insulin and get you off those pills. So you want to work with your doctor, and hopefully you do have that kind of doctor, because it is reversible and preventable, like I've been telling you over and over again. And I stress that so much because there's too many people suffering. I know too many people personally, they are suffering because they don't know the simple things of fasting and the simple overflow condition that it's all about. Stop the sugar, stop the carbs. Start with low carb. Start with intermittent fasting, and we'll do that. We'll talk about that next week. In the meanwhile, if you enjoyed this video, just if you haven't subscribe, and maybe click that little bell, and it'll notify you of the next video that I make. And again, as I usually read this in Psalm 139:14 in the Old Testament, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. So you have to remember that God created this body, and as Robert Boyle said, we're so unacquainted with our body that it's time that you start getting acquainted with your body, this wonderful mansion. It's never too late. And even if you aren't on dialysis, even if you change a few things, you'll feel better. If there's just all the way around, you can't lose by changing your diet. You cannot lose by cutting all processed carbs, potatoes, bananas, most fruits until you get it, no fruit until you're off of all meds. You're not going to die without fruit. Trust me. No one has ever died from not eating fruits or eating a banana. So just try to do that. Try to get this book. This book is wonderful. He goes into a lot of detail. I just covered the basics and just basically want to let you know that it's preventable and reversible, because a lot of people are not told that. So please get this book if you're a type 2 diabetic, or if you have a loved one that has it, and they don't have a doctor that's telling them that it's reversible. And so in the meantime, have a blessed evening, have a blessed weekend, a blessed week. And if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, just you can include them below the video there. And again, thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you start becoming proactive and getting to know your body better. You can get a body atlas, an anatomy book. Those are sold everywhere at a bookstore. You don't have to talk to your doctor about everything in your body. Be your own doctor. Get to know your body, all your organs, all the different systems, how your body works. And so, anyhow, have a great day. Thank you again. Be well, be blessed. And until next Saturday, thank you.